What is up, guys? I do hope you're well. My name is Mark, and today we're looking at some more r/am I the butthole. If you're new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too, as it all really helps out our channel. And don't forget, you can follow us on podcast too now, so you can take me with you wherever you go. And if you want to be super awesome, you can support the channel either through YouTube membership or over on Patreon with different tiers and things like that. A huge thank you to each and every one of you for being here today. It is truly appreciated. And with that being said, let's get on with today's stories. Much love, guys. Our first story is, am I the arsehole for giving my wife an ultimatum about getting a dog? I had a dog when my wife and I got married. I loved her. She was my buddy. When my wife got pregnant, she became increasingly paranoid that the dog would be a danger to the baby. She brought up rehoming and I refused. She was an aggressive breed, but she was trained. One day she called me crying at work that the dog ran away and she couldn't run after her. I believed her. I looked for that dog for weeks. I finally just accepted it because we had to go to hospital to welcome our child, and there were just other pressing concerns. It's been 5 years since then, and now we have 3 children. I've wanted to get a new dog, but the kids take a lot of energy and time. My wife has always had a new excuse not to get another dog. I found out recently that my dog didn't run away. My wife and her father took the dog to the pound while I was at work because her parents agreed with her about the dog being dangerous. I'm furious. She was my dog, my baby. She wasn't dangerous. I would never have agreed to that. She probably never got adopted. I'm honestly mad enough to consider separation, if not for the kids and practical reasons. I've told her that the only way to make up even a little bit for us is to get a dog. She ultimately doesn't want a dog at all and complained that she would have too much to do with it. I'm not planning to let up on this one this time. I've seen a similar story to this one before where they went behind their back to give the dog to the pound. I think it was the daughter in the last one, took the dog somewhere else and put it up for adoption. And it was like, who does this? Who goes behind your husband's back to do this? That is absolutely insane that someone would even cross their mind, not talking about it or anything and discussing the situation, but just literally getting the dog and taking it and then lying, saying it ran away and that you looked for it for all this time. How heartbreaking is that? Wow, let's go down into the comments to see what we can find. Snarkin in the USA said, not the arsehole, get a dog after your divorce, dude. Tiny Dictator's mum says, not the arsehole, you said you were looking for the dog for weeks and I'm sure you were distraught while you searched for her. Your wife continued to watch you in your pain, knowing she caused it and did nothing. She also disrespected you as a parent. She made a decision that something wasn't acceptable for your child to be around this dog and you disagreed, but she decided she knew better than you. Also, F your in-laws. Kaisamia says, this, let's ignore the dog for a moment. Your partner in life, your sickness and health, your love maliciously hurt you. At minimum, she ripped something you loved from you and caused you deliberate and direct stress over a hypothetical risk. In likelihood, she murdered it, but at minimum, she took it from you and lied to you about it. Not the arsehole. This is not okay and not something someone does to someone they love. You would be the arsehole if you get another dog, because she clearly can't be trusted with them. You'd be causing that creature potential harm. But honestly, get that divorce. If she's capable of doing this to you, can you really trust her? And for the first story, guys, I turn it to you. What do you guys think of this story? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 1. Our next story comes from Electronic Stomach 78. Am I the arsehole for not letting my boyfriend correct a Chinese woman? We live in a shared house with a bunch of random Craigslist roommates. One of them is Chinese and was sitting at the kitchen table during lunchtime, slurping her noodles and minding her own business. My boyfriend had just come into the kitchen to eat his own lunch, and rather than ask her how her weekend was or anything other polite conversation, he instead asks her, can I teach you something about culture? I knew he was going to tell her that Americans consider it rude to slurp food, but this woman wasn't at a business event. She was in her own house and, in my opinion, can eat her own culture's food however she damn well pleases, especially since she was sitting alone by herself first, and we just happened to enter the same room after. So I cut my boyfriend off and said, stop. He kept trying to talk to her. Don't say anything, I said again. He kept wanting to press the issue. Ignoring me, he said, I don't care, but Americans think it's rude to slurp your food. Jeff, stop it. Drop it, I said. And she looked highly embarrassed and quietly continued eating her meal. I apologised to her and said, I apologise for Jeff's comment, and he said, and I apologise for my girlfriend not letting me talk to you. I don't think it's Jeff's place to educate people who didn't ask for feedback and were just trying to be comfortable in their own home. He thinks I'm being a culturally insensitive racist liberal for not letting him help teach her American customs. Who's being the arsehole here? Edit, by help teach her American etiquette, he meant that he wanted to tell her that Americans would find it rude if she slurped their food at a business lunch or such occasion, not that she had to stop doing it at home. He worked as a cultural consultant abroad, helping foreign business people secure deals with Americans by teaching them about customs and mannerisms and whatnot. So I genuinely believe that Jeff thought he was doing her a favour by letting her know that others might be turned off by slurping. But I still think that 1. It's not his place to give such information unsolicited, and 2. The minute you point out that Americans find slurping rude, she's going to feel self-conscious and judged about doing it at home, even if Jeff says it doesn't bother him. If I was in my own house, culture irrelevant, anything aside, and I was eating noodles or something similar, and I was slurping them, I'd just tell him to fuck off. That's my business, what I'm doing with my noodles. And that's pretty much all I got to say on that matter, I wouldn't want to be educated by some arsehole telling me how to eat my own food. The dude just sounds like he's got his head up his arse a little bit here. Wow, a lot actually. But let's get down in the comments below to see what we can find. A deleted user says, "You are not the arsehole for being compassionate and respectful and a decent human. Your boyfriend is the complete arsehole. You hit it square on the head. They pay for that space and they can eat as they please. Who gives a fuck about American? America is literally a land of immigrants. I think you did the right thing and your boyfriend is the racist and culturally insensitive arsehole. Obviously other things are bothering him and he chose to take it out on a roommate. Never okay. Do not apologise for being decent." I Want a Manatee replies to this saying, "America is a continent, and not everyone here shares those customs. How else are you supposed to eat watery noodles? Like spaghetti? That's just travesty." Edit, America is a sole continent outside of the USA, and apparent to what is referred to as North America, according to one sole Canadian comment. You can Google and get over it. I know it's also a very short way of calling the United States of America, as Mexico is a short way of calling Estados Unidos Mexicanos. I might have butchered that completely, but it either is North America and South America or just one America. America and South America makes no sense. Miley30 says, "Jeff sounds insufferable. He's a guest in her house and he's lecturing her on manners. Ick. Not the arsehole for attempting to shut that down. Is this how he acts all the time?" And Vilk replies, "Not the arsehole, and tell your boyfriend to slurp my dick." Schoolboy humour. Gotta love it. What do you guys think of this story? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 2. And our next story comes from Not Adopting Her Baby. Am I the arsehole for not adopting my wife's child? I, 27 male, used to have a wonderful relationship with a woman I love, 26 female. However, 5 years ago, she got drunk, had a one night stand and got pregnant from it. Can't be mine. I can't have kids due to a horseback riding injury when I was a teen. Didn't get the guy's name, no way to find him, so he's out of the picture. My wife decided to keep it and we almost went through a divorce, but couples therapy made us decide to try again. We're still in therapy now, since I still have a hard time trusting her. So she had her son, we talked a lot about it, and I made it clear that I'm okay taking on a step-parent role, but I wasn't willing to fully be his dad. I wouldn't adopt him, but I would help raise him and get him off to college. My wife agreed to this, became a stay-at-home mum so she could take care of him with help from her parents, and I've pretty much been the fun uncle-like guy. I play with him, buying games, try my best not to resent him, and I'm in therapy for this, and mostly just stay out of the way of my wife's parenting. He even calls me uncle instead of dad. He knows I'm not his father and is happy to just play video games with me and chill. Well, recently, my wife has just started talking about me adopting him, something I'm not willing to do. I made it clear that if anything happened, he would go live with her parents, and I'd send child support. If they couldn't take him, I wouldn't put him in foster care or anything, but I also wasn't willing to take on the responsibility of being his father when I'm not. I'm happy being an uncle to another man's kid, since that's what life threw at me. This has greatly upset her, and she's trying to find a way to force me into adopting him. She's even been manipulating the poor kid, saying he should start calling me dad instead of uncle like he has his entire life, which is upsetting and confusing the poor boy. The situation has worked for the last 5 years, and I don't know why she's trying to change something that isn't broken, or force me into a role I told her years ago I wasn't willing to accept, which she was fine with until just recently. Oh man, this is just like an awful situation, and all I can picture is this poor kid just confused as hell about everything. This poor kid who's been brought onto this earth by no choice of his own, seems to be purposely distanced from and then emotionally manipulated at the same time. What a mess, man. And I'm not sure if this is the right thing to say or not. I don't think he should be in the relationship if he's going to resent the child. You know, it's just not healthy to be in that situation for anyone, I don't think. But I don't know. We'll have to see how this one goes. Let's take it down to the comments to see what we can find. Shmambo88 says, everyone sucks here. Everything about this is pretty terrible. Her cheating, you purposefully distancing yourself from the child who is not yours through no fault of his own, not to mention you being the only father figure he's ever known. Dads don't need to be blood. You all sound like assholes, except the little one obviously, who I just feel so sorry for. Sort your shit out for his sake. Anchovy Mac and Cheese says, exactly, if OP couldn't grow past his resentment of the kid not being his, then he should never have agreed to stay in the relationship. It's not fair to the child. Either he needs to be all in or out. Leaf Trail replies to this saying, it's not that easy to just not resent. He's doing something similar than being all out. He's still contributing to his life. It is sad he hasn't come along more, but he's not a total arsehole. Everyone sucks here. Guilty Pleasure 39 says, you may want to check with an attorney, regardless of whether or not he is your biological child. You have been raising and supporting him. Even if you don't adopt him, he's likely yours in the eyes of the court. That said, not the arsehole. You had an agreement. You supported the decision to keep the baby. You worked through her infidelity. She wants to have her cake and eat it too. OP replies to this saying, I've checked with 2 lawyers, one actually my brother-in-law and one an outside party. I was not put on the birth certificate and was actually told by both that the fact that he wasn't mine was grounds for a quick divorce, no matter how long it's been. If we divorce tomorrow, we'll be basically walking away free. My brother-in-law was disgusted with his sister when he found out, and was even the one to suggest I get a divorce. My other lawyer is much more neutral about it all, so I trust what he says. Love of All Sheep says, not the arsehole. Once she cheated on you, she lost the right to ask anything of you. You set boundaries that she agreed to, and now she pulled the child into this to try and get her way. You worked through the divorce once, but something like confusing the kid by making him call you dad when you've been uncle all his life would be a deal breaker for me. You're gonna have to sit down and let her know. If she's going to go back on her word, she's making your previous decision divorce come back to light. Not the arsehole otherwise. Sandwich Otter says, this is terrible advice. He chose to stay in this marriage. In marriage, your spouse does have the right to ask things of you. Is she supposed to live in a perpetual state of punishment and guilt for the rest of her life? I don't condone cheating, but he decided to stay in this marriage. This whole situation just sounds toxic and awful for everyone, especially the kid. Marriages that survive infidelity do so by rebuilding trust in your partner, not enshrining your resentment. He's not allowed himself to love this kid. He purposely kept him at arm's length and seems to feel no attachment. Can you imagine growing up in a house like that? You think the kid doesn't feel it? He absolutely does. And finally, I turn it to you guys. What do you guys think of the story? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 3. Our next story comes from a throwaway account. Am I the arsehole for asking my daughter to take her siblings along and being mad she didn't take care of him? A few days ago my daughter, 17 female, was going on an outing to a coffee shop, wouldn't tell me what shop, and I asked her to take her brother, 9 male, and she said no. Also, this is allowed. And started complaining how a 9-year-old ain't gonna fit in a crowd of 17 to 18-year-olds. I told her to just watch him, and she said that I can do that just fine. My 9-year-old is very active, never sleeps, and he's a little annoying. I needed a break that day, just for an hour or 2. My daughter started arguing with me, and in the end, when I threatened to ground her, only did she leave. She came back in 2 hours later, and there was a French coffee in her hands, and this Oreo blizzard in my son's. My son gets even more active after eating sugar, and doesn't even sleep. I yelled at her and said she wasn't supposed to get him anything, and she just said that he wouldn't stop whining, and that he's been eating fruits for the past week, so he deserved a drink, and he's not gonna die. I'm sure she did it to spite me. I didn't ground her or anything, just sent her to her room, and my son is sad that I took his drink away. I don't want my son to have cavities, he already has a sweet tooth. Am I the arsehole? So you forced your 17-year-old daughter, who was going to meet her friends of 17 to 8-year-olds, to take a 9-year-old along with her. You basically threatened her with grounding if she didn't take him. She eventually does. She takes him for 2 hours, buys him a drink as well, and you're still not happy with it. I don't get the logic here. It just sort of screams at me that you're being so ungrateful in this situation. She actually took him off your hands after you threatened her, mind you, and then you're not happy anyway. The girl can't win. Let's go down to the comments because I imagine they're going to say much the same. You're the arsehole. Why would you send a 9-year-old to a coffee place to hang out with 17-year-olds? She shouldn't have to take him along in the first place, and that's not an age group where he'd fit in. That's obvious, right? Bluebell435 replies to this saying, and then got mad he got something. She wants him to go to the shop where everyone else was getting something and have nothing for himself. She was being the arsehole to both of her kids. Potentially Nox says, you're the arsehole, you're the parent, not her. And she's right. It's weird to have a 9-year-old around a group of 17 to 18-year-old teens. Parenting is your job, not hers. Noz says, you're the arsehole. If you really wanted a break from your annoying and active 9-year-old, tell him to go outside and play in the backyard. Your daughter is 17 and was hanging out with people her age. Why even threaten to ground her just because you want a little break? Tough shit. Oh wow. What do you guys think of this story? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to vote on the poll in the description for story 4. And our final story is, would I be the arsehole if I responded to this guy's message just so I could expose him to his wife? First time posting and I'm mobile, sorry in advance. I know this title sounds bad, but first, a timeline of events. Basically I have this family friend. She's about 12 to 13 years older than me. I've known her since I was about 9, I am now 20, as she was my cousin's nanny. I ended up bonding with her because my siblings and my cousins are a lot younger than me, and I had nobody else to talk to. We've kept contact all these years, although not as much as when we lived close to each other. About 4 years ago she got married to this guy she'd been dating for a while, who is a year or so older than her, and everybody loved him. My family really liked him, I thought he was a super cool guy myself. About 2 years ago I was 18 and moved out on my own and was starting my first college semester. One night her husband messaged me through social media asking how life was going and all that. I still saw him as a cool guy and a family friend at this point, so I gladly kept the conversation going. But then it got weird. He started asking me about how I lost my virginity, how I handled things when I was single and all sorts of weird stuff, complained about how his wife didn't satisfy him, etc. I basically freaked out and just stopped answering. Ignored him and tried to forget this ever happened. I wanted to tell her, but I was scared to ruin her marriage and I wouldn't be taken seriously. I took screenshots of the conversation but ended up losing them after switching phones so many times. This is where I'm wondering if I would be the arsehole. Today I got a message from him again, first time since that incident. He messaged me calling me by my nickname. I'm currently 20 and he is in his mid-30s. Just the way he said it and because of our last interaction, this really rubbed me the wrong way. My first instinct was to say hi and see where he steers the conversation this time, before informing him that I don't agree with how he's been going behind her back like this, as well as collecting proof of it happening before talking to her. I already feel guilty that I didn't trust myself enough to say anything to her the last time it happened, and this time it seems even worse to me, because a few weeks ago she just announced that they're expecting their first child together. However, I don't want to bring this up without proof. I really care about her and I don't want to hurt her, although that may be inevitable at this point. Would I be the arsehole to do this? It's all so fresh, I can't think of another way to go about this. There's also the possibility that he won't even take the conversation that direction, but I still feel guilty about it when it did happen 2 years ago. What I will say is, like, after a year or so of reading different posts from various different subreddits, we see this thing quite a lot, where the OP will tell the friend that their other half has been flirting with them, and usually, and I gotta say it never usually ends well. You're probably going to lose a friend. I know it sounds bad, but it just happens so often. Whether the victim in this is like in denial about it all or whatever, it usually ends badly. And that's not to say that you shouldn't tell the wife at all, but just be wary of that is all I'm saying, you know. And I'm sure a lot of people in the comments down below are gonna say, yeah, you have to tell her and all this kind of thing. In which I do agree with, but you know, just be aware, is basically all I can say. Let's go down and see what we can find. Professor Knew It All said, not the arsehole. As you said, see where he goes in the convo. Hopefully the guy has matured a bit. Do not say anything at all that could be remotely construed as flirting back. You don't want to give the wife any room for denial by blaming you. It sounds better if she finds out about this before they have a kid. OP replies to this saying, yes, they are very important points to keep in mind. I don't want to make it seem like I instigated it. Reflorated says, I think you need to show your friend the messages he has sent so far and let them figure out how to deal with his wife. It's not you to do the detective work and talk to him. He creeps you out, plain and simple. I would say that you should actually send him a message, tell him he's being creepy, block him, and send the screenshots to your friend and put them all over social media. Guys like this don't deserve dignity. Dog Trainer replies to this saying, don't put them all over social media, tell his wife and let her decide. Posting it all over social media would be cruel to her as well. This is her private life, she gets to do what she wants with the information. Reflorated replies to this again saying, this is true, not editing my post so people can see my dumbass brain working at its finest. This person is right, it's a delicate matter and should be treated as such. Markovich12 replies, she isn't going to want to hear this. Unless it's specifically asking you for sex, she could take his side and choose to interpret it as him being supportive. People can be very quick to justify anything when they want to. I'd block him and stay away. Leopards don't change their spots, he will trip up in the future. OP says, this is my biggest concern, is that she'll find a way to justify it and that I'll lose a friend in the process. Dumbo the dog replies saying, if she really values your friendship, she will believe a good hard piece of evidence. If she actually breaks up your friendship over this, she was never your friend in the first place and you are better off without her in your social circle. You had good intentions at heart and that is all that matters, so you shouldn't feel bad about anything. Just do it, reply to him, and if you manage to collect evidence to expose him to your friend, good luck and update this. And once again, I turn it to you guys. What do you think that OP should do in this situation? Let me know in the comments below and don't forget to vote on the poll in the description in story 5. Once again guys, thank you for being here today. You are truly appreciated. As I always tell you, you mean a lot to me and I will see you in the next one. Take care now. Much love.